Hi, I'm Nathan from Serious Geeks, and this video is going to be about the unit coherency rules and how that is going to affect 40k in general and the wider community. As you can see from on the screen now, the unit coherency rules have actually changed. The standard 2 inches distance between models still applies, however, there is a new caveat. If a unit numbers 6 or more models, that means that each model has to be in range, coherency range, 2 inches, of at least 2 other models. This in itself isn't a massive change, it just means you have to think a bit carefully about how you end a unit. You can't string them out quite as far, quite as long. But with these rules alone, you can still make a Conga Line. Conga Line being a string of models that lead from one area of the battlefield to another, usually getting aura abilities from characters that are quite a distance away and providing it to a unit that is on, say, 12 or more inches away. It's a bit of a cheesy rule, and I'm kind of glad that Games Workshop is making efforts to affect that rule. However, like I said, it's not really making many differences to our Conga Lines on its own. What is going to affect it in quite a big way is the casualty removal rules and how that actually impacts a large unit. In the morale phase, you have to now take a coherency check, which establishes if the unit is left in coherency, a legal coherency, after casualty removal. This means if you do a reasonable amount of damage to a unit that has strung its line out, and the person who removes the models takes so from, let's say, the centre of the unit, you're going to have a split up unit which is no longer in coherency. Once you have to do that coherency check, the split up unit is at serious risk of taking additional damage. And if models aren't in coherency, you have to remove models until the unit is now legal. This can have a massive impact, and I actually think it's a relatively good change. As I said previously, Conga Lines are not a very nice way of playing 40k. It takes away the theme, and it's a little bit cheesy in that you can have one character miles away and units benefiting from that character's aura abilities, and yet they're on a different section of the table fighting a different battle, and it just doesn't kind of feel right. It's obviously an oversight in the rules, and that is why this is coming to force. How will this affect the wider 40k community? Well, I believe we're going to stop seeing such cheesy moves such as the Conga Line, which means if you want more units to benefit from these character auras, you're going to have to actually place new characters on the table, which means people will have to use the detachment rules to the best effect that they can manage, which usually means less command points. Because to get extra characters in the table, you would need more detachments. And to get more detachments, you have to spend command points. So I think that would be quite interesting. If your units are going to be well led and well enforced by, whatever characters, say you're a Space Marine commander, and you've got several lieutenants in your army, chaplains, and one captain, maybe even a chapter master, for all your rerolls, that's going to be quite an investment. The alternative is you just take, say, a captain, a chaplain, and a librarian, and then you don't have access to the lieutenant, and you've got maximum amount of command points. So it's a real trade-off, and it'd be interesting to see how people kind of shift the game. I know for my own armies and my own unit choices, I'm actually an Ultramarines player, so I don't particularly need massive amount of characters to boost them up because I get a lot of reroll ones from other sources. But I think a lot of armies are going to have to relook at it. Also, with board control across the table and the need to take objectives and hold these objectives in the face of secondary objectives as well for players, and whatever, keeping in mind whatever your opponent's going for, the coherency check is going to be very important because you're going to need to place your unit in such a way that it has influence upon the game without being nullified by taking a few casualties and then being completely strung out with half the unit being wiped out through coherency. This could impact larger units more than smaller units, but then I think players can quite easily mitigate it if they take their casualties from, say, a consistent place. I mean, if you know full well that your opponent is going to shoot you and then they're going to shoot this unit, then you make sure that the casualties you take are all from one side, so it's kind of marching up. It's a bit more thematic, a bit more realistic. So people can't just randomly choose models that make the best play for them completely. There's almost this, you've got to kind of choose a side of the unit that you're prepared to lose. And I think that will be the new custom way of playing. That would be the new standard. I know that that's how I'm going to play and protect my plasma guns and my sergeants in my Space Marine army. I'm going to have to do that. And I don't have a problem with that. Overall, I'm quite happy with this new rule change. The coherency rules needed to be tightened up, and it's going to be a little bit funny seeing formations of units moving forward, and they have to be in blocks of 2. But on the other hand, that kind of makes sense, because, a large unit would kind of, a horde unit does kind of operate in my mind, or in the mind of many books and novels, as a big throng of models, or miniatures and, people. And to remove them, it would kind of be like mowing them down. You're not going to just randomly shoot. You're not going to shoot the unit and randomly models all over it die. You're going to hammer a certain area of it, and that's how people will do the casualty removal. So I think that is a good thing, and it kind of offsets the fact that there's a lot of assault potential in the new Warhammer 40,000 9th edition, and this kind of helps that, because let's be honest, as much as I actually quite like assault armies, I just don't think it's 100% fair to completely make armies that rely on shooting absolutely worthless. If they have to think about their placement to be able to get line of sight on you, the least you can do is think about your model placement to stop yourself from getting absolutely trounced and wiped out off the table yourself. So, a little bit of give and take for both sides. And more importantly, players can actually think and benefit from their thinking, which is all the more tactical play, and like I said before, I'm all for that. In summary, the advice to players I can say is think carefully about placing your units. The models you're prepared to lose, put on a particular side of the unit. I don't know if you want to put them at the back, all the models you're prepared to lose, so the models that are at the front can shoot, but whatever you do, you have to do so. You have to be consistent. Otherwise, you'll end up making a mistake, and you'll have 7 Space Marines, 3 on one side, 4 on another. You made a mistake, and you have to lose 3 of them. And whoops, you left the sergeant on the side with the 3. That's even more damaging. We don't want to have to do that. I think assault could be a bit of a problem in that regard. You have to definitely think carefully about how you place your assault models, your assaulted models, I should say, or how you assault other models, because let's be honest, you're going to get absolutely annihilated otherwise. And models will get separated and they can't move because they're stuck. And then you have to start removing models because they're not on coherency. Tactically, that is something that we can actually utilise ourselves. If you charge and flood an army with models, with Orc Boys, for example, or Genestealer Cult models, you can potentially not just tie up units and keep them all stuck and having to spend command points to get out of close combat, which they can only do with 1 unit at a time anyway, but also they may actually run afoul of the coherency check because they can't move. So it enables you to finish off units quicker. And that is also quite an interesting element to, say you've got 10 intercessors and they're not all in one big mob in one little bit, and you hammer them, you can actually whittle them down quite nicely and take a bit of board control yourself, which I think it's an important element to take. Armies that this isn't going to affect very much are the new Primaris models that are in quite small units. Outriders, Blade Guard, they're only 3 strong. I'm sure they're going to be a lot bigger going forward in the future when multi-part kits come out, but at the moment that's not the case. Also, other small units such as Custodians and Elite units from all armies, they're not going to be that well affected by it. So it's quite interesting to see how that will work. So essentially we're going to have a situation where the smaller the unit is, the more strung out it can be. Almost like a skirmish unit, almost like Intent. And the larger units are going to be like a big mob of models. Very thematic and something that I actually really enjoy, and I think many other players will as well. Anyway, that's going to be it for this subject for me, at least for now, until we get a little bit more information, new codex, points values, etc. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for being so patient. I'm really looking forward to growing the channel more and getting more content out. And with personal circumstances being a bit of a block recently, and that block has actually been removed, there's a bit more normality coming. I look forward to providing as much content as possible and hopefully you guys will like and subscribe and it will spread to others. Thank you very much. Peace out.